What up, squad? It's your Squid, aka the Anxious Squid, here at Anxious Squid Productions. It's been a couple of days since I uploaded a video, so I figured let's get right into it, right? This video is going to be top 10 NASCAR drivers who have never won a cup race. Don't stress, I've seen a lot of the comments being like, oh, have you watched this? Are you watching this? I've watched every race from the Cup Series. I haven't watched any of the trucks or the lower rings yet or anything, and I will be watching tonight, don't stress. I don't know when I'm uploading this, but I can chew gum and walk at the same time, so I might be editing and uploading while the race is on, but I will definitely be watching it. The TV's just there, so don't worry about that. But yeah, I'll stop blabbing. These guys are my patrons. They're awesome. Please consider becoming one. But yeah, top 10 NASCAR drivers who never won a cup race. Let's get into it. As always, guys, thanks for tuning back in. You guys are the real MVPs. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Apparently, the more of you that hit that like button, the more people that see it and the more subscribers I get. So that's how YouTube works. Who knew, right? Let's get into it. Top 10 NASCAR drivers who never won a race.
This weekend, thanks to Alex Bowman, there are now 192 different winners in NASCAR's top division. And with Daytona coming up this weekend, that number could jump up to 193. But that got me to thinking, who's the best of the rest? Of the nearly 3,000 different drivers who cranked up their engines in the Cup Series and never won, which of those guys was the best? Well, let's take a look. In order to make this list, you need two things. One, you have to be currently retired with no prospect of getting back into the Cup Series. And two, you have to have at least 50 starts. This weeds out some of the road course ringers who were no doubt very, very skilled in the Cup Series, but never competed full-time. We're looking at full-time competitors who focused on NASCAR's top division exclusively. So, without further ado, let's get into this.
Number 10, laid the groundwork.
Musgrave. Across 305 starts in the Cup Series, Ted Musgrave spent most of the early 90s driving for a variety of different teams.
That looks
before he landed with Roush Racing in 1994. He would get a top 5 and 3 poles that season, but in 1995 it really looked like he was about to break out, getting a pole, 13 top 10s, and 7 top 5s. Nice. That one win would elude him for his entire career. In 1995, he even managed to have an average finish of 13th and placed 7th in the standings. The future looked bright for him, but he could just never make it happen. He would stick with Roush until 1998, and then he would jump ship. In 2001, he would drop down to the Truck Series, where he would find his greatest success. In just his first full-time season, he won 7 races and got 13 top 5s, and ended up 2nd in the championship standings. From 2002,
so he did it right in the trucks.
He would get 3rd place in the championship standings 3 times in a row, and then in 2005, he finally put it all together and got a championship. Dropping down to the lower divisions ended up giving him his best success in his career, but it basically meant that he would never win that NASCAR Cup race. And so, here he sits in 10th on this list. At number 9, the most famous driver to never win a race in the Cup Series, Ralph Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt Sr. said he was the greatest driver he ever saw. But then again, it's his dad, so take that with a grain of salt. In just his first season in 1956, he won a pole position. He would make 51 starts in the top division, would nab 6 top 5s and 16 top 10s. He led 105 laps across 7,000 laps of competition, too. In 1956 as well, he won the Sportsman Championship in NASCAR, which was basically the precursor to the Busch Series, now the Xfinity Series. He was also the track champion at my hometown track of Greenville Pickens Speed.
I felt a sneeze coming. Alright, let's go.
In 1965 and 1966. He came from an impoverished part of North Carolina and never really had that much money, so competing in the Cup Series was always just financially out of reach for him. Now, if he had the money or got scouted out by a good team, I have no doubt that he probably would have made hundreds of more starts and probably would have won a few races. But with his financial situation, the Sportsman Series was basically going to be his home, and that's where he found his greatest success. Tragically, in 1973, his life was cut short at the age of 45 due to a heart attack. Considering that most drivers at the time would race all the way into their late 50s, we really don't know what he would have done later in life. Ralph Earnhardt will live on, however, as a legendary driver throughout the Southeast weekly racing scene.
Yeah,
Number 8,
enough.
Wally Dallenbach Jr.
Helps that his son and grandson,
never won a race in NASCAR's top division. He never won a race at any division. Despite driving for the likes of Felix Sabates and Rick Hendrick, he could just never nab that top spot. He was the 1985 and 86 Trans Am Series champion, and he won the 24 Hours of Daytona 4 times and the 12 Hours of Sebring 3 times. There was no doubt about it, he was a master of sports car racing.
Nice,
However, he could just never wheel around those big, heavy, dumb NASCAR stock cars. While he was driving for Bud Moore, it looked like he had a race at Sonoma in the bag, but he just couldn't wrap that one up either. Across his career, he had 226 starts, 6 top 5s, and 23 top 10s. Not a terrible career by any stretch of the imagination. Not bad. But he had his chances, and by the time the 2000s came around, nobody wanted to sign him, except except NBC Motorsports, where he became one of my favorite commentators.
Nice.
Success never found him in the track, but in the booth, there were few who could rival him.
Some people just need that little bit of experience so they can get into the commentary box, you know?
Truck Series champion, and likely would have won the 2003 Busch Series championship had his team, Herzog-Jackson Motorsports, not lost funding entirely. They went sponsorless for pretty much the whole season, and by the halfway point, they had closed up shop. Despite that, though, he finished top 5 in the Busch Series standings 5 times. In the Cup Series, though, he had 241 starts, 7 top 5s, 21 top 10s, and 5 poles. And he did this while driving for garbage teams, by the way. He never had a quality ride in that division, ever. And if you want my opinion, I think he was far better than his older brother, Brett Bodine, who actually won a race under dubious circumstances and a possible scoring error. I honestly think had he ever gotten a quality ride and gotten his sea legs under him, he probably could have made a good career in that sea legs. Series
nice.
And probably
that's a cool
races. However, once he dropped down to the Truck Series and started winning so much in that division,
Navy, so to speak,
hard pressed to get him out of that ride. And so, winless in the Cup Series, he became. Number 6, Mike Skinner. Mike Skinner made a name for himself.
So I'm hearing a lot about these guys that just go down into the trucks, dominating the trucks, but can't quite get it in the Cup Series, you know?
In 1990 came. Number 6, Mike Skinner. Mike Skinner made a name for himself in the Truck Series when it began in the mid-90s. He'd win the inaugural championship and win 8 races that season. In 1996, he would win 8 races again.
Nice.
In 1997, he was brought in as the second car for RCR and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s teammate with Lowe's sponsorship. And in that first year of competition, he won the pole for the Daytona 500. Greatness surely awaited Mike Skinner in the Cup Series. And although he showed a lot of promise, he just could not perform at that level. He would have 10 top 5s, 39 top 10s, and would win 6 poles across his career. That just wasn't good enough to keep him in the ride, though. And by the time the 2001 season had wrapped up, they booted him out in favor of Robbie Gordon. He would drop back down to the Truck Series and would start winning again immediately. Although he doesn't compete in NASCAR anymore, he does compete in the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where he always impresses.
Goodwood Festival of Speed. Fuck me, what is that?
NASCAR truck until it always goes to the top of the board. Yeah, Mike Skinner could definitely wheel a car around.
That deserves a look.
Always impresses in the
I reckon maybe this is going to go into a playlist. This playlist, the motorsport playlist.
Top of the board. Yeah, Mike Skinner could definitely wheel a car
Someone
around.
comment on this video and remind me I said that so that I go check it out. We're going to go back again, but
until it always goes.
Yeah, someone do me a solid, comment right now for me. Check out that whatever, I've already forgotten what it was called. Check it out. See, you're going to help me out.
To the top of the board.
And I'll check it out in future for a video.
And if he had ever changed teams or shaken things up a little bit instead of just dropping out entirely, he probably could have done pretty good in the Cup Series and maybe even gotten that first win. Number 5.
That's a whole different beast, though.
Buddy Arrington competed in the Cup Series from the mid-1960s all the way to the late 1980s. And he did this pretty much the entire time as an owner driver.
Nice old car.
He had 560 starts, 15 top 5s.
Someone looks like the one out of Dukes of Hazzard.
All the way to the late 1980s.
Southern Cross, not Southern Cross, fuck, that's an Australian flag. Southern Cross, fucking, what is it called? Not the Dixie flag, that's what Yellow Wolf calls it. You know what I'm talking about, the Confederate flag, there we go. Yeah, that car looks like the General Lee. I should have just said the General Lee.
From the mid-1960s all the way to the late 1980s.
It's a paint job away from being the General Lee.
Time as an owner driver. He had 560 starts, 15 top 5s, 103 top 10s, but only led 14 laps in his entire career.
Oh, that's unfortunate, bro.
Well, really just his unyielding loyalty to Chrysler Corp. For him, it was Mopar or no car. In 1978, Dodge debuted the Magnum, which Richard Petty absolutely hated and could not make work for the life of him. So he switched to Monte Carlos later that year. But Buddy Arrington, he stuck with the Magnum.
Richard Petty
worse, and it was definitely worse. In 1981, NASCAR switched to smaller, more compact bodies to more resemble production cars out on the street. Dodge introduced the Murata, and Chrysler introduced the Imperial, but they didn't have any factory backing. They had only introduced the bodies. Buddy Arrington stuck with the Murata and the Imperial for as long as he could, all the way until 1985 when the rules stipulated that he just couldn't run those body types anymore, and then he begrudgingly made the switch to Ford. Now, had he actually signed with a real team that had real backing and wasn't so shackled to Chrysler when they had clearly backed out of the sport, he probably could have gotten at least one.
Loyalty killed him. Unfortunate.
He wanted to drive Chrysler Corp cars, and by God, he drove Chrysler Corp cars. And speaking of owner drivers, let's get to number 4 on our list, J.D. McDuffie. Most famous for being the guy who started the most races without ever winning a single one, J.D. McDuffie started 653 races in his career. He had 12 top 5s, 106 top 10s,
106, so he was a good driver.
Actually, the majority of his laps came from a single race in Nashville in 1979. He led 111 laps that day, but ended up losing to Kel Yarborough, who had led 80 or so. It seemed like he had that race in the bag, but that one victory would just slip away. And did my research, I found out this little fun fact, which is so unbelievable I actually had to double check it to make sure it was right. But across those 653 starts, he never finished on the lead lap, ever. I'm pretty sure if I started 653 races, I could finish on the lead lap at least once by sheer accident.
Maybe.
But J.D. McDuffie, again an owner driver, always played it safe. No need to go out there and risk one of his precious few cars. And so, here he sits at 4th on this list. And starting with the top,
so it's more about being there and having the
names. Starting with 3rd on this list, Rick Mast. This one really surprised me in my research. I thought for sure Rick Mast had won a race in the Cup Series. I remember as a kid during the 90s, he always qualified well. He had 4 poles.
Maybe there's that Mandela effect.
Including the pole position at the inaugural.
Oh, if you haven't heard of that,
he had
check that out. Like, I don't even mind. Like, watch 5 or 6 of my videos. Give me some watch time. But then, just type in Mandela effect if you haven't heard of it. It's fucking weird. Not sure if I believe it or not, but
always qualified well.
Maybe this guy won in the other dimension.
Including the pole position at the inaugural Brickyard 400. He had 364 starts, 7 top 5s, and 36 top 10s. He also had 9 wins in the Xfinity Series during the late 80s.
Oh, that's a big puddle.
The most iconic car, the
was that there deliberately, or just because it had rained at some point?
Biggest thing holding him back. Now, you might have noticed that Harry Gant, driving the number 33 Skull Bandit, has basically the same sponsor as Rick Mast. And that's because the Jackson brothers, Leo and Richard, had split at some point. Richard Jackson started his own race team with the number 1, and Leo Jackson stuck it out with Harry Gant in the 33. Instead of unifying and coming together to make an unbeatable team, they had gone their separate ways and both of them suffered for it. Rick Mast would leave the team during the mid-90s, and after that, age had just caught up with him. He would retire in the early 2000s, solidifying.
Man, you can see how fast they're still going when they get that much air hitting the wall.
NASCAR royalty, probably the most.
Sorry, I know I keep talking over this dude, but like, look at this.
Up with him. He would.
Look how fucking, like, that is just Earth moving, and the car getting airborne. And he'd been sliding through sand for a good 100 yards. Like, that's...
In the early 2000s, solidifying his place on
this list. These guys aren't, like...
Let's get to number 2 on this list, NASCAR royalty.
Slow by any imagine, are they?
Famous NASCAR driver just by virtue of his name, Dick Trickle. Yeah, he has a hilariously unfortunate name, but hey, it made him famous.
Did you meet Dick Trickle?
Eric!
He's a race car driver. His name is Dick Trickle.
In the 70s and 80s, Dick Trickle was probably the most
That was a cool show. And, fun fact, right? The guy that played Hyde in that 70s show and the guy that played Francis in Malcolm in the Middle, the older brother, they're brothers in real life. I saw that on a meme the other day. I didn't believe it. I Googled it. It's legit. They're actual brothers. Now you know. Fun fact, right?
Track racer in America. By most estimates, he won between 1,000 and 2,000 short track features all across America, mostly in the Midwest. Before they became NASCAR legends, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, and Alan Kawicki had to best Dick Trickle on Saturday night short tracks.
Dick Trickle.
Although he had made a few random starts in NASCAR's top division during the 70s and early 80s, he never
one of those big things.
When I get to 1989.
When I get to 10k subs, because YouTube doesn't do anything, like they do something at 100,000, which would be nice. I would get a little plaque. That'd be kind of cool. I can't see myself getting a gold plaque at 1 million, but you know, stranger things have happened. You guys just hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Help me get there. But yeah, 10,000. One of my subs, you guys should send me a big fuck off thing, floral arrangement. That'd be cool.
That year, he would end up
might organise it myself and just say someone did.
48. So why didn't he ever just step up to NASCAR competition earlier? Well, according to everybody that knew him and worked for him, he was making so much money by just dominating local short tracks that going up to the top tier series of NASCAR was never even really a consideration. Financially, it would have been a step down for him. The big money sponsorship deals just weren't there yet. His Cup Series stats are this: 303 starts, 15 top 5s, and 36 top 10s. Oddly enough, his rookie year would be the best year of his career. Now, had he got starting earlier, say in his mid-20s or so, he definitely would have won a race, in my opinion. No question. It was just he was so busy dominating short tracks all over America and making so much money doing it that he just never bothered. By most people's estimates, he was probably the highest paid stock car driver in America for a long time. Yeah, who needs to move up to the big leagues when you're making twice as much money as they are? Gotta say, Nick, my hat's off to you. And for number one on this list, how about a guy who probably never heard of? Cecil Gordon. Bearing no relationship to Jeff Gordon or Robbie Gordon, he had 449 starts in the Cup Series, 29 top 5 finishes, and 111 top 10 finishes. Every time he cranked up his engine, he had 1 in 4 odds of getting a top 10 that day. That's really impressive.
That's
Lots
good.
of guys today would kill for that kind of ratio. He finished top 10 in the points 7 different times, and he finished 3rd in the points
and he never won a race.
In 1971 and 1973. Those 2 years are very significant because 1971 is pre-modern era and 1973 is post-modern era. In the pre-modern era NASCAR, they were making routinely 40 to 60 starts in NASCAR's top division every year.
All right.
That year, he showed up to 48 races, never won a single one, and still managed to be 3rd in the points.
Still there though, isn't he?
The likes of Buddy Baker, Elmo Langley, Bobby Allison,
you can just hang up near the top.
Parsons. In 1973, post-modern era, there were only 28 races. That meant that even more
73 is
drivers
post-modern. What the fuck is now? Post-modern?
Still, he
Post-Malone modern? Like what?
That year, he bested the likes of James Hilton, Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Bobby Allison,
really go check out this Petty bloke.
Again, Buddy Arrington, and tons of other drivers. That year, the only 2 drivers that were better than him were Benny Parsons and Cale Yarborough. He was an owner driver pretty much his entire career.
Like
what makes this even more insane
is
he
like
only led 23 laps in his entire career. He wouldn't dominate, but he would always show up and always race well. And pretty much the only way to do better than Cecil Gordon in the points was to just go out and win. And even then, if he won a few races that season, that still wasn't a guarantee. It's just staggering how few DNFs he had with as little money as he had and that little race shop he had out in North Carolina.
Not that he was chubby, but you know what I mean.
Voodoo they did to those engines to make sure they would always turn every single lap.
Have a look at how pointy the front of those cars are.
There it is, Cecil Gordon, the greatest NASCAR driver who never won a race in the Cup Series.
All right.
I'm Slap Shoes. Y'all take it easy.
Good on you, Cecil. Or Cecil, or whatever. There's a Slap Shoes video for you guys as well. I know heaps of you have been suggesting that, so I'll get that up on out of here. Hey, the orange dot worked with me for the first time. I only had to hit it once. That's cool. Probably shouldn't have mentioned it. But yeah, alright, that was top 10 NASCAR drivers who never won a Cup race. I am going to check out more NASCAR, don't worry. I'm going to check out more motorsports in general. I think the next motorsport video, actually, it's not going to be, I was going to say it's going to be Isle of Man TT, but I'm going to create a new playlist because I've saved a couple of Red Bull, like crazy sport stuff that Red Bull sponsor, and I'm going to create a whole new playlist and react to that sort of stuff next as well. But yeah, hit me with your suggestions, what you think I should react to, because, you know, I'm your YouTuber, I'm the guy of you. I don't know what that means, but I want to do what you want me to do, because otherwise there's no point in me doing it, you know what I mean? I don't generally watch my own videos, I'm here doing it for you, so, you know, you may as well tell me what you want, and then I can give you what you want. I feel like that's a Spice Girls song. So tell me what you want. Anyway, I'll get on with it. These are my patrons. Thanks, guys. I'm going to film some more. These guys are the best. Your name could be in that as well. And yeah, big shout out to Hinto. He's a new patron. He's over there. He's got the little love heart on him. And big shout out to Matt as well, who increased his patronage to my top tier, which is the Humboldt Squids. So yeah, if you want a heart next to your name, do that. They're probably going to go back to Flames as well originally, but I wanted to put the heart there now just to give those 2 guys specifically a mention. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to shut up now and get on with it. Click one of the things and watch my next video as well. Thanks, guys. I'll see you when I look at you. You'll see me when you look at me. Thanks for watching.